Hey guys, it's Rachel. It is Thankful Thursday, and this week we are looking at guilt concerning maybe others who are around us, our family or friends, and how to manage that guilt with regards to our eating disorders and other mental health problems. It's something that obviously a lot of you or all of you do experience, because it doesn't, even if you aren't particularly connected to your family, most people have kind of close friends or somebody who does care about them. And even if that person's a therapist, I know a lot of people who feel guilty about disclosing information to their therapist because they feel the guilt of that and like they feel like they're a burden. If you can hear random clapping in the background, it's because I've got Wimbledon on. And I knew I needed to get this video up. I've just been completely distracted by it. So where to start? When we get ill, whether it's eating disorders, depression, bipolar, any kind of addiction, any mental health problem, one of the initial things that we do experience is the guilt of that. And I think for me personally, and from other people I've spoken to, that's partly one of the biggest reasons why people tend to keep these things for themselves when it comes to behaviours such as self-harm. Although we carry out the actions on ourselves and we may have thoughts and feelings about that, there is a part of us that does know that by telling a family member or a close friend or a teacher or whoever it is, that it will affect them. And I think that's quite a big reason why we do keep behaviours secret. When I was first poorly, I certainly kept pretty much everything to myself. Some of that was because I didn't want anybody stopping me from what I was doing, but a lot of that was I knew in some part of me how badly it would affect my family. When I first went into hospital and my parents sort of saw for the first time my arms with my self-harm and stuff, I did see how that impacted them. Fortunately, I was in hospital, and so I had that space from them for when they went home. But as my issues have been going on for a long period of time, and I've had long periods of recovery as well and periods of being recovered, one of the biggest things for me which allowed me to recover was actually letting the people around me know that I was struggling. I'm very, very honest about the difficulties that I have, and actually by being honest means that I'm not actually using behaviours anymore. There's some sort of impetus there to not use behaviours, because when you see the reaction of a family member, a friend, your brother, your sister, your teacher, your therapist, whoever it is, seeing that reaction can impact us as well. And the line is quite a blurred one really between telling people what is going on for us and them feeling the guilt for telling us. I'll use the example of, a close friend. So if a close friend has sort of said to me, I'm using this behaviour, that behaviour, I can hear in their voice how difficult it is for them to share that with me, because I'm going to obviously react in an emotional way and say, I'm really sorry that you've done that. And so there's two kind of ends to it really, and what I would like to deal with is I'd like to deal with both, because I don't think it's just people who struggle who watch some of these videos. I think sometimes people show them to their family or to their friends. So on the one hand, if I think about the reaction of your friend or your family member, when I've been told by somebody close to me that a behaviour has been used, such as self-harm for example, I have to work really hard to, when I react, to kind of say, that's really difficult to hear, and feel the emotion of that. But when I relay that back to the person who's confided in me to tell me that, to not react in such a way that increases their guilt, because this is quite often what happens, is that we may tell somebody who we feel we trust and they can react, and in many respects they can't help how they react. So if you've told somebody close to you that you've been using behaviours, you are more than likely going to get an incredibly emotional reaction, because for people who don't have these issues, the thought of somebody they love hurting themselves, starving themselves, losing weight, binging and purging, whatever it is that you use, alcohol, drugs, that that's a really hard thing to take on board. And I can say that because I've been on the receiving end of it in a relationship. And it's really, really difficult to watch somebody you love do those things to yourself. And I'm somebody who's been there myself, and even the people close to me, when I know they're using behaviours, it tugs at me. But I also have to be very, very careful in how I emotionally react to that situation, because I want the reaction to be enough to make the other person think this is hurting the people around me, but not be so overly emotional that they feel even more guilty. So if you're talking to somebody who, unlike myself, doesn't have those experiences, I will say to you that it's normal for them to react to you. So if they react negatively or incredibly impulsively with regards to their emotions, or they get angry at you, or they don't want to see you, or they just break down about it, don't take that as rejection, and try not to allow that to make you feel more guilty, because that is a normal reaction. And even therapists can react in that way, and it isn't particularly their job to react, but I think to a degree, when we work with a therapist, if they showed no emotion whatsoever, we might kind of think, well, what I'm doing is okay. So with the therapists I've worked in the past, they've reacted to me, but it hasn't been so intense that I felt guilty for telling them, and sort of went away and thought, God, I'm not going to tell them next time. But it was enough to actually make me think, this person genuinely cares about what I'm doing to myself. And sometimes carrying that with you for a week or what have you it doesn't necessarily stop you from always using behaviours, but it can give you some motivation, give you a push, it could be the thing that pushes you further into recovery or makes you consider recovery. And a lot of people out there think that in order to recover, I have to do it for myself, there's only myself who has to do it. And I've been in a relationship with somebody who was like, I've got to do this for myself. And I agree, we do have to do this for ourselves, but more often than not, and the people I know who have recovered, you initially do it for the people around you, because it's very difficult to find that motivation from within yourself. Because if your self-worth is down and you feel low and you feel worthless and like you don't deserve good things, it's very, very difficult to do things. Whereas if you have somebody close to you, it can be a friend more often than not, and for me it's like a close friend who I can see how much it's upsetting her or him, and kind of work with that and use that. And it doesn't mean that your behaviours disappear overnight, but by being made to feel slightly guilty about it, I don't even like the word guilty, can be a real motivation to help you move forward. So that's my side on being on the receiving end of it. If you are to tell people what's going on for you, do expect a reaction, because that's completely realistic and it's normal. It's normal for your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whoever to be upset and to be like, do you know what, I need some space from this. I experienced it with my mum. It can be whoever it is, and it does feel incredibly rejecting. It does feel like somebody is walking away from you, but quite often that person just needs some time. They need time to just process what's going on, because what we do to ourselves, although they may feel normal to us, are not normal to other people. And to attack ourselves through self-harm or purging or starving or drinking or whatever it is we're doing to ourselves, it's not easy for those people around us. And even like for me, this has been going on for me since I was 19 and I'm 30, and still to the day I'm a million times more recovered than I ever have been. But still, you know, if I have a bad day, like today hasn't been the best day and my mood's low and I'm struggling to motivate myself, my mum finds that hard, because the last thing she wants is to see me struggling. And so if there's a reaction there, allow that emotion to be there. Allow that person who loves you and cares about you to have an emotion, because that shows how much they love you. It's not that they're cross at you or angry at you, which we can often feel, and they're not doing it to make you feel guilty. They're doing it because they're human, and any human being has reactions and has emotions. And you've also got to allow that person to have that. In the relationship I was in, initially she struggled with the reaction I had, and I was like, look, I'm as entitled as you are to feel. I'm not feeling these feelings to make you feel guilty. I'm feeling them because it hurts. It hurts to know you're hurting yourself. On the receiving end of that, with regards to guilt yourself, you are going to feel guilty. You are going to feel guilty because the illness makes you feel guilty. So you're going to feel guilty because you've eaten, or you've not eaten, or you've been sick, or you've not been sick, or you've self-harmed, or you haven't self-harmed, or you've not been out of the house for a few days, or you've not got dressed, or you've not been able to do this, not been able to do that, you've not been able to stick to a commitment, you've not been able to sit an exam, you've not been able to complete your coursework, or you've completed it and it hasn't been good enough. So there's like, you're made to feel guilty about absolutely everything. And that is the nature of eating disorders. It's the nature of depression and other mental health issues, that nothing ever feels good enough. So in feeling like crap, you feed the circle of guilt and despair, and I'm useless and I'm worthless and I'm crap and I can't even do this right and I can't even do that right. And that is where the guilt is going to stay really, really strong. With regards to other people, I know a lot of people who don't tell family members, don't tell friends, because they don't want to feel guilty. They don't want to upset the other person. What I will say is that it's worth the risk. I know a lot of people, family members or other, who can react incredibly negatively to you telling them what you are doing. If you're seeing a therapist, I don't think taking that risk of telling those people close to you is as necessary, because you are seeking support. So when I was in therapy, it wasn't as crucial that I told my parents what was going on. They would have a decent idea, but I didn't tell them everything that was going on for me, because I was taking it someplace else. I was getting support from friends, so they didn't need to know every single detail of how much I was struggling or wasn't struggling, or if I had a blip or didn't have a blip. I could take that to therapy. I was being honest in therapy, and that's what mattered. So if you've got that opportunity, the people around you don't need to know everything that's going on. If you're, however, waiting for treatment, or you're like me and I'm no longer in treatment, I'm under the care of a psychiatrist because of my medication, but I'm not seeking support elsewhere because I've dealt with, my issues in therapy. I spent a long time in therapy. If I have a difficult day, I have to be honest with the people around me, because I've got nobody else to share it with. So I will just be like, oh, do you know what, today I just want to stay in my pyjamas and I'm having a really crap time, and I'm going to do things to help myself. I'm going to do some of my art, I'm going to do some writing, I need to go through and put an article together for this new magazine I'm doing. And it does feel pressurising, but I've got those things there, and I need to be honest with the people around me, because I need the support. That's a genuine, I want to stay safe. I don't want to use behaviours. I don't really have any intention of using behaviours. So just err on the side of caution, really, and just let the people around me know. But when you initially need support, you don't have to tell people everything, but just enough so that they know that you're struggling. You don't need to say, I'm self-harming however many times a day, or you can just say, do you know what, I'm really struggling, and would you mind sort of staying around because I'm really struggling. Some people get rejected, and I will say now, I'm really sorry if you're one of those people who get rejected for that. But you can talk to us. You can talk to us at the channel. You can email me. A number of you are on Facebook with me. Feel free to write to me if you don't feel you can talk to anybody else, and I will do my best, and I'm sure most of the girls here, to facilitate you getting support elsewhere or getting support from your family. I'm going to leave it now, guys, because I've nearly gone for 15 minutes, and I will see you next week. All take care, keep fighting, know that you're worth it. Okay, bye.